Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the 92nd verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel TN Thai in the USA. They for whom there is no accumulation, who reflect well over their food, who have deliverance which is void and signless, as their object, their course, like that of birds in the air, cannot be traced. When the Buddha spoke this verse, he offered a vision of the life and practice of one who is fully mindful, diligent, and liberated from the entanglements of worldly clinging. The verse speaks of beings who accumulate nothing, who do not allow possessions, wealth, or attachments to gather like sediment in the heart. Their practice is deliberate and careful. Each action, even as simple as partaking of food, is attended with reflection and mindfulness. They consider the nature of what sustains the body, mindful that food is a support for the path, not an object of craving or indulgence. Through such reflection, they cultivate moderation, restraint, and deep awareness. The Buddha further teaches that their object of pursuit is deliverance, which is void and signless. This is not a material gain or a worldly accomplishment, but a profound liberation from the bonds of craving, aversion, and ignorance. Deliverance, void, signless, points to the ineffable nature of awakening. It is beyond the realm of conceptual thought, beyond the grasp of the ordinary mind, yet accessible through practice and insight. Those who walk this path resemble birds in the air, whose courses cannot be traced. Their movements are free, unconfined, and spontaneous, guided by awareness rather than desire. Just as the flight of a bird is unbound by fences or fixed paths, so too the liberated practitioner moves through life without attachment to fixed patterns, locations, or identities. In the stories that accompany this verse, the Buddha describes wandering monks who practice in simplicity and detachment. One such monk is depicted as rising before dawn, moving silently through the village, observing the world without grasping. He accepts alms with gratitude, reflecting on the impermanence and appropriateness of the sustenance offered. With each morsel, he cultivates mindfulness, considering the nourishment of the body and the freedom of the mind. He does not accumulate wealth, nor does he hoard knowledge as a badge of honor. He is free from the accumulation of objects, thoughts, or attachments, for he understands that these bind the heart and obscure clarity. His deliverance is neither tangible nor bound by form. It is the open sky of the mind, empty yet luminous, signless yet radiant, free from the limitations of clinging. People who observe his conduct notice the ease and lightness in his movements. They see a mind that is not burdened by desire, a heart that is not weighed down by attachments, and a presence that is as fluid and unpredictable as the wind. Just as birds may change direction without effort or hesitation, so too does the liberated practitioner navigate the world without being constrained by habitual impulses, without being tethered by fear, craving, or self-centered intention. This verse invites us to consider the profound subtlety of non-accumulation. In ordinary life, accumulation is often seen as security, as a source of comfort or identity. Yet the Buddha teaches that all accumulation carries potential bondage. It is not only the accumulation of material possessions, but also the gathering of views, attachments, preferences, and identifications that obscure clarity and freedom. The mindful practitioner, by contrast, cultivates simplicity and discernment. They do not reject the world, but they do not cling to it. They move lightly, observing phenomena as they arise and pass. They maintain awareness of their conduct, understanding that each action, each thought, each intention contributes either to liberation or to entanglement. The stories of the monks wandering from village to village illustrate this principle. They live modestly, taking only what is necessary, practicing reflection and mindfulness at every stage of daily activity. When they eat, they are fully present, aware of the nourishment, the impermanence of the food, and the gratitude owed to the donors. When they travel, they are fully aware of each step, each breath, and each sensation. Their lives are like birds in the sky, untraceable and free, yet purposeful, guided by the principles of the Dharma. In these teachings, the Buddha emphasizes that liberation is not a matter of escaping the world, but of cultivating the mind. The course of the practitioner, like the flight of a bird, is not constrained by expectations, attachments, or habitual identifications. It is open, spontaneous, and guided by awareness. The verse reminds us that the path to freedom involves continuous reflection, careful attention, and diligent mindfulness. It is not simply abandoning objects or places, but cultivating a mind that does not cling, that does not accumulate unnecessary burdens. By reflecting on every action, by considering the nature of sustenance, and by pursuing the deliverance that is void and signless, the practitioner gradually releases the attachments that obscure clarity. The journey is subtle, and the freedom it produces is profound. Just as we may watch birds soar through the sky without ever fully tracing their path, so too does the liberated practitioner move through life with unbounded freedom, yet with deep wisdom and insight. The stories of such monks, their silent walks through villages, their careful consumption of food, their deliberate movements, and their reflective meditation provide concrete examples of how this verse is embodied. In reflecting upon their conduct, we are invited to observe our own attachments, our own accumulations of things, thoughts, and emotions, and to consider how we might move more freely, like the birds in the air, guided by awareness and inner freedom. Each action becomes an opportunity to cultivate mindfulness, each breath a reminder of impermanence, and each observation a chance to release attachment. In this way, the verse teaches not only the ideal of freedom, but also the practical steps of reflection, mindfulness, and deliberate living that lead to it. The mindful exert themselves in every detail of life, not for reward, recognition, or attachment, but for the cultivation of inner freedom. Each action is deliberate, each movement is conscious, and each thought is observed. In the story associated with this verse, the Buddha describes a wandering practitioner who carries nothing beyond what is necessary for survival. He does not accumulate wealth, clothing, or even possessions beyond the bare minimum, for he knows that accumulation binds the heart and obscures awareness. Yet, his life is full, rich with insight, presence, and deep compassion. As he walks from village to village, he interacts with people in a way that is unburdened by expectation or desire. When he receives food, he reflects upon its origin, its impermanence, and its nourishment for body and mind. He does not consume with craving, nor does he dwell upon the pleasures or displeasures of taste. Each meal becomes an opportunity for mindfulness, an occasion to cultivate gratitude, simplicity, and awareness. The principle of reflection over food extends naturally to all aspects of life. Every encounter, every decision, every action becomes a moment of conscious practice. The practitioner is attentive to the arising of thoughts, emotions, and desires. When attachment arises, it is observed with clarity and allowed to pass, like clouds moving across the sky. When aversion arises, it is noticed and released without judgment. When habitual patterns emerge, they are gently acknowledged and gradually transformed. This constant reflection and mindfulness allow the practitioner to remain unattached, to cultivate freedom, and to walk a path that is untraceable to those who are bound by craving and fixation. The verse emphasizes the concept of deliverance as void and signless, which points to the nature of awakening. It is not something that can be grasped, defined, or held. It is beyond form, beyond labels, and beyond attachment. the practitioner directs effort toward this freedom, recognizing that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self. The mind that is trained in this awareness gradually loosens the grip of craving, dissolves the sense of ego, and rests in the natural state of clarity and peace. In the stories of wandering monks, this quality is reflected in their untraceable movements. Like birds soaring in the air, their path is not fixed or constrained. They do not remain in one place due to attachment to comfort, recognition, or habit. They do not move in a way that is predictable to others, for their actions arise from awareness rather than impulse. Each step is guided by mindfulness, each choice by discernment, and each interaction by compassion. Observers may see only the outward actions, but the inner freedom of the practitioner remains invisible, like the wind guiding the birds. This teaching challenges ordinary assumptions about security, comfort, and permanence. Most people cling to possessions, achievements, relationships, and habitual patterns as sources of stability. Yet the Buddha reveals that true stability arises from non-attachment, awareness, and diligent cultivation of the mind. When the practitioner accumulates nothing, reflects deeply upon all actions, and directs attention toward the void and signless deliverance, their course becomes untraceable. They are not lost, nor are they aimless. Rather, they move through life with clarity, adaptability, and freedom, responding to circumstances with wisdom and compassion rather than reacting from craving or aversion. The story illustrates that this path requires continuous effort. It is not a single act of renunciation, but a lifetime of mindful exertion. Each day, the practitioner renews their commitment to observe the mind, to reflect upon every action, and to release subtle attachments that arise even in the ordinary moments of daily life. Gradually, this consistent practice cultivates a profound lightness of being, a freedom that is like the flight of birds, effortless yet purposeful, spontaneous yet mindful. The verse also emphasizes that the path of the mindful is subtle and often invisible to those who remain caught in accumulation and attachment. Just as the flight of birds cannot be traced in the sky, so the course of the practitioner is not recorded by external markers of success, fame, or wealth. Their life may appear simple, ordinary, or even austere, but within the mind, there is clarity, serenity, and liberation. The story reminds us that liberation is not about grandeur, recognition, or accumulation. It is about careful observation, deliberate effort, and consistent practice in the cultivation of awareness. Every breath, every step, every thought is an opportunity to release attachment and move closer to the void and signless deliverance. In this way, the teaching becomes practical and accessible. We may not all wander like monks, yet in our daily lives we can cultivate the same principles. We can observe our actions and intentions, reflect upon the impermanence and unsatisfactoriness of attachment, and direct attention toward freedom rather than accumulation. Even small steps, choosing simplicity, practicing mindful eating, observing emotions without clinging, acting with compassion, without expectation, contribute to the unfolding of freedom and insight. The verse also calls us to recognize that the path of mindfulness and liberation is not linear, predictable, or easily traced. It is fluid, like the motion of birds in the air. We may take different directions, encounter different experiences, and face different challenges, yet the principle remains the same: mindfulness, reflection, and dedication to the void and signless deliverance guide every step. By cultivating these qualities, the mind becomes light, the heart expansive, and life unfolds with clarity, freedom, and deep joy. The practitioner becomes a living example of liberation, not through words alone, but through the silent radiance of their presence, the calmness of their mind, and the wisdom that guides their actions. Observing such lives inspires us to integrate the practice into our own, understanding that accumulation, attachment, and craving are obstacles to freedom, while reflection, mindfulness, and diligent exertion open the path to awakening. The verse thus serves as both a teaching and a guide, illuminating the way to live with freedom, clarity, and profound insight. The mindful practitioner's path, as depicted in the 92nd verse, embodies a profound freedom that is visible not in outward possessions or achievements, but in the inner lightness of being. Each day, such a practitioner engages fully in the present, whether walking, eating, speaking, or meditating. The reflection over food, which may seem simple at first glance, is in fact a profound training of the mind. It cultivates discernment, patience, and gratitude, reminding us that even the most ordinary activities can become gateways to liberation when approached with mindfulness. In the stories from the Buddha's time, wandering monks would accept alms from villagers with the utmost care, considering the source, the impermanence of the sustenance, and the nourishment it provided for the continuation of the path. They would eat slowly, deliberately, and without indulgence, observing the arising of thoughts and emotions, and reflecting on the transient nature of all things. This careful attention prevents accumulation, not only of material goods, but also of mental impressions, habits, or attachments that bind the mind. The void and signless deliverance, toward which the practitioner directs effort, is not a theoretical concept, but a living reality experienced through constant observation and release of clinging. The liberated mind moves unimpeded, flowing naturally through life, as birds traverse the sky without leaving a visible trace of their flight. This metaphor is powerful because it illustrates the subtlety and freedom of the awakened mind. The course of such a practitioner cannot be confined, traced, or predicted by ordinary standards. They respond to life with clarity, compassion, and awareness, rather than reacting out of fear, desire, or habitual patterns. The verse emphasizes that liberation is not contingent on circumstance or achievement, but arises from the consistent practice of mindfulness, reflection, and non-accumulation. Those who live this way become living examples of the Dharma. They teach not through words alone, but through the serenity of their presence, the clarity of their actions, and the quiet radiance of their minds. Observing them, one witnesses the profound effect of mindful exertion, the release of attachment, and the natural flow of awareness. The life of the practitioner who embodies this verse demonstrates that freedom is attainable here and now. It is not delayed to some distant future, nor is it reserved for the extraordinary. Even within the ordinary circumstances of daily life, one can cultivate freedom by observing the mind, reflecting on impermanence, and releasing attachment. The story of a wandering monk in the Buddha's time illustrates this principle vividly. The monk moved from village to village, carrying nothing beyond what was necessary. He did not linger in one place due to attachment, nor did he resist leaving familiar surroundings. His movements were deliberate, yet unburdened, guided by awareness rather than desire or fear. As he traveled, he cultivated mindfulness, reflecting on every action, every thought, and every sensation. He observed the arising of craving, aversion, and delusion, and gently released them, returning the mind to clarity and serenity. Those who encountered him observed the ease, freedom, and quiet joy in his presence. He was like the birds in the air, free, unbound, and untraceable, yet fully engaged in the world. This teaching encourages us to bring the same mindful approach to our lives. We may not wander from village to village, but we encounter the same challenges: attachment to possessions, accumulation of thoughts, desires, and habits, and the clinging to identity or comfort. By practicing reflection, mindfulness, and deliberate exertion, we can release these subtle bonds and cultivate inner freedom. Each breath becomes a reminder of impermanence, each step an opportunity to observe the mind, and each interaction a chance to act with clarity and compassion. The verse calls us to understand that the freedom of the mind is subtle and profound. It cannot be measured by external markers, for it is not dependent on accumulation, recognition, or material security. It is found in the lightness of awareness, the release of attachment, and the cultivation of insight. Like the flight of birds, the course of the practitioner is untraceable, flowing naturally and effortlessly, yet guided by understanding and wisdom. This path is continuous, requiring steady exertion, patient observation, and consistent reflection. The practitioner cultivates the qualities of mindfulness, discernment, and compassion in every action, gradually releasing subtle attachments and habitual patterns that obscure clarity. Over time, the mind becomes spacious, the heart light, and the life lived with freedom, insight, and joy. The verse thus provides both instruction and inspiration, guiding us to practice diligently, reflect carefully, and cultivate the freedom that arises from non-accumulation, mindful exertion, and dedication to the void and signless deliverance. By following this teaching, we can move through life with grace, clarity, and liberation, embodying the qualities of the birds in the air, unbound and radiant with insight. As we conclude our reflection on the 92nd verse of the Dhammapada, let us carry its teaching into our daily lives. Mindful exertion, reflection over every action, and freedom from accumulation allow us to cultivate the clarity, lightness, and serenity that the Buddha describes. Like birds in the air, our path may be untraceable, yet each step taken with awareness moves us closer to freedom, wisdom, and liberation. May this teaching inspire us to observe the mind, release attachments, and live fully in the present with clarity, compassion, and joy. Thank you for watching my video. Namo Amitabha. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.